looked at the why we use aggregate in concrete and what are the different types of aggregates, how do we classify based on its shape and texture, and some mechanical properties of aggregate which could influence the properties of concrete, right? So in today's class, we are just going to continue the other aspects or different aspects of property which could affect the performance of concrete. So one such property is hardness. So as the name indicates, the hardness is defined as resistance to wear. So the lot of aggregates in concrete we generally use for road pavements or pavements or road constructions. So in such cases, those materials will be exposed to heavy traffic conditions where vehicle tires will cause abrasion on top of the members. So in which if you are using aggregates, the aggregate should be hard enough to withstand such wear. So we have certain test methods to find out the abrasion value of aggregates that would be used for typical conditions where heavy traffic is expected. Okay, so how do we test those properties of aggregate? By using Los Angeles machine. So there are some conventional methods available which is no longer practiced now. So in recent days we use this Los Angeles test which basically combines the process of both attrition and abrasion. Okay, so in this case, so the left right image shows the, so this image basically shows the representative of the test machine that will be used for doing this Los Angeles test. So what do we do in this machine? So this drum, the cylindrical drum here, so the cylindrical drum here, basically what we do, we put the aggregates inside the cylindrical drum. Okay, so here we have this access to cover, so we can open this and we can feed our aggregates which need to be tested under to check the abrasion value of those materials. So we have some count so that it will have certain amount of revolution counter. So for example, some 500 rounds or something, so that it can be, we can see, so inside these kind of small steel balls will be placed. So when we rotate this drum, so we have steel balls in it, so which weighs in between about from 390 to 445 grams. So when we have such heavy steel balls and when it rotates, what it does, it basically simulates the conditions of the abrasion. Okay, so it not only abrasion and it also gives the combination of the crushing value also. Basically what here the process is, because of this abrasion, the mass or the particles, the aggregate that is there inside, that gets reduced in size because of the continuous rotation of the revolvement involved. Okay. So basically we find out the process that we studied in crushing and toughness, the same procedure is applicable here. So we take certain size of aggregates, say for example the range is between 14 to 20 mm, typically that is being used. So we weigh that mass and then we rotate, and after this abrasion test we take those particles outside and then we weigh those particles using different sieve levels. Okay, so finally whatever that we get the mass reduction that we considered, we get the wearing value in terms of percentage wear due to relative rubbing action between the aggregate and steel bars used as abrasive charge. Okay, so the mass reduction with respect to the size reduction with respect to the original size, so the mass reduction with respect to the original mass, basically we get the wearing value, aggregate abrasion values. So if the material has good abrasion value, then it indicates good hardness. Basically, for that the size has to be less. So the mass on the retained or the passing through will be less. So the detail about this procedure will be explained and demonstrated during the lab classes. And now in this class, you just have to have idea about what are the different properties that we look and how do we test. And along this, if the material has good hardness, then basically that gives good compressive and flexural strength also, because there is very hard to break. So depending on the conditions and the applications that we will be using, there are certain permissible abrasion values used for different construction purposes. This is based on IRC specifications. This is Indian Road Congress specifications. So which gives details of materials and the properties of materials to be used for different conditions and applications. So here, this is how we obtain the abrasion value. So the weight of aggregate retained on of the C size, that could be 1 or 2 mm, and the original weight of aggregate. Okay, so to the so the difference between the weight of aggregate retained to the with respect to the original weight of aggregate, we get the abrasion value, right? And these indicates based on IRC specifications the maximum permissible abrasive value are given in terms of percentage for different types of payment. So here, as the traffic, where we expect more traffic, and the case of the thing, the permissible abrasion value will be reduced, especially the bitumen concrete surface course that is typically used for payments. There, the abrasion values are lesser. So lesser the abrasion value, more the hardness of the material. And this is not only for pavements and road constructions, whereas when we have some industrial constructions where heavy flooring is required because of the equipments and machines will be occupying the space. And due to the movement of those equipments and machine, the flooring has to be strong enough. So in such cases, so the aggregate should be chosen such that it has good hardness to withstand these kind of wearing and tearing. Right. And now we look at characteristics of aggregates which could influence the fresh and hardened properties of concrete. So we know that typical normal aggregates that occupies almost 75% of the volume of concrete. So in concrete you can say about 75% is aggregate. So then, since it is has a huge role, so it influences the fresh and mechanical properties of hardened properties of concrete. So this kind of illustrates how the property of aggregate influences, or the different properties of aggregate influences the different properties of concrete. So it starts from the parent rock, and then depending on the formation of the parent rock or the exposure conditions and the processing factors involved, that influences certain kind of properties of aggregates. So we classified into two categories based on that. So one is prior exposure and processing factors. Another one is microstructure of the aggregate. So there will be some pores and some mineral present in the aggregate, right? So based on that, we have our classification under classification called microstructure. So this prior exposure and processing factors basically represents the process using which we obtain the aggregates. So crushing aggregates, so we use crushing machines to grind or mine the aggregates. So all these things has influence on the particle characteristics such as the size. So depending on that, we may get the formation also, the prior exposure, how the formation factor, the sedimentary rocks, and the natural process of aggregate, the erosion and abrasion, those plays a role. So when we talk about these processing factors, so these particle characteristics, so those things will affect the size of the aggregates, how rounded or elongated or flaky, and shape of the aggregates, and texture. So mainly we saw the textures, it would be smooth texture or rough texture, depending on its formation and the crushing equipment and the rate of crushing, those things plays a role. And whereas in microstructure, it basically represents the physical and chemical characteristics of the aggregate. It is pores and density. That depends on, like, if aggregates are in general porous in nature, so it is very difficult to get impermeable aggregate, right? So some pores will be there in the aggregate, and that pores, depending on the nature of the pores, that will be like permeable, that will allow water, or that is impermeable, that will not allow water, but that will just collect water in the pores. Okay, so pores which significantly influence the density of the material. So when we have such things, so that has a influence on the fresh plastic stage of concrete. So the property of concrete, plastic concrete, so that basically consistency. So when we in concrete, so we know in consistency means for cement, it is the optimum amount of water required to mix the concrete or place to mix the cement or place the cement. Basically, it indicates the workability. So the consistency and cohesiveness. How so these all influence the mix proportioning, and thus it affects the fresh properties of concrete. So unit weight of the aggregate and the unit weight of the concrete and cohesiveness and consistency all depends on the property of aggregate, that is the porosity and density of aggregates. Okay, and then we have this mineralogical composition. So in that so we get aggregates from different sources, and depending on the sources, because one of the main purpose of using aggregates is we need to reduce the cost, and so that we try to use locally available aggregates. So in such cases, whatever aggregates available locally, that could differ significantly in their mineralogical composition for comparing to the aggregate which is available in other locations, right? So in such cases, the sources of aggregates could be like depending on the rock or the materials that we obtain. So that would be silicate in nature. So in the previous lecture we saw the different types of aggregates that is classified based on the mineralogical. So that could be silicate aggregates or calcite aggregates and limestone based, all those things. So when we have such different mineralogical properties, that has significant role in controlling the hardness and the compressive strength and toughness of the material. So certain minerals will be good in toughness, and certain minerals will be very soft that can't withstand high hardness or impact loading, all those things. So those has a tendency to influence the crushing strength and abrasion resistance and elastic modulus of the aggregates and the soundness. So soundness, you know, this is the basic property, amount of which, a degree to which it is sensitive to expand. So when we have the properties of aggregates, so such properties of aggregates, the compressive crushing strength, abrasion resistance, and soundness, this influence the hardened property of concrete. So just the ultimate strength, how much strength that the concrete can take, that is depending on the crushing strength of the aggregate and the abrasion resistance and dimensional stability. Like aggregates are in general stable comparing to cement paste, because cement paste is too sensitive to shrinkage things. So when we use aggregates which are good in, which has very less, which has a good soundness, then that provides good dimensional stability. The shrinkage issues will be less, and such these things will lead to durability of aggregates. So when we have a good quality of aggregates, that will lead to a good durable concrete. And as I said, like this porosity and density, that has a tendency to influence the workability, so which affects which is the primary concern when we discuss about the concrete mixing proportioning. Fine. So these properties we have to keep it in mind, because this plays a huge role when we discuss about the concrete mix design. So in concrete mix design, we basically play with amount of water to be used and amount of cement to be used, so that the relationship between water and cement in terms of water cement ratio, and depending on the strength required and the workability required, we do some alteration, and trial and error basis we come up with final design. All right. So now, having said that, we will just look at the aggregate properties based on microstructural and processing factors. We are just focusing on that, and based on that, we have three different categories. One is based on the porosity. So aggregate properties significantly depends on porosity, which has influence on density, moisture absorption, strength, hardness, elastic modulus, and soundness of aggregate. And prior exposure and processing factors, so just to sum up what we saw in the previous slide, so it indicates this has a significant influence on particle size, shape, and texture. And when we talk about chemical and mineralogical composition, that has a tendency to influence strength, hardness, elastic modulus, and deleterious substance. So in general, these are the physical properties of aggregates. So when we select aggregates, these are the important properties to look at to qualify aggregates for the required performance. One is the specific gravity and bulk density of the aggregates, porosity and absorption, moisture content, bulking of sand, unsoundness and thermal properties. We'll just look these properties in detail. So what is specific gravity? So you might have studied all those terms. You are familiar with these terms in your high school or in basic in your first years. So why do we check specific gravity? Why it is required? Any idea about the specific gravity? Okay, as per definition, it is the ratio of mass of a unit of material. So if we have some material, so we'll take a mass of a unit and compare that to the mass of the same volume of water. Okay, so basically mass of some material to the mass of the same volume of material of water. So we get the specific gravity. It's a specific gravity of water. Any idea? So you know that you have used these values in your previous courses. Okay, so you check and tell me in the next class what is the specific gravity of water and why it is important to calculate specific gravity. Fine. So we know that natural aggregates are porous in nature and it contains certain amount of pores that allows water and certain kind of pores that do not allow water. So those that allows water, those are like permeable pores, and those do not allow the water, that called the impermeable pores. Then depending on the nature of rocks that we obtain or the aggregates that form. So depending on the nature of aggregates, there are certain porosity or pores present in those kind of materials. So this gives a general idea how much pores will be present in different types of rocks that we use to get the aggregates. So if it is intrusive igneous rocks, then the amount of porosity will be about 2%, and if it is dense sedimentary rocks, then the amount of pores will be 5%. And if it is very poor sandstones and limestone, then we can see about 10 to 40% of pores present in the concrete, sorry, present in the aggregate particles. So these porosity plays a huge role, because when we have more pores, that will lead to loose particle packing. Okay, so the term particle packing The term particle packing indicates that the maximum possibility of placing aggregates in certain volume. So it is always like when we have some, like for example, 1 meter cube volume of concrete, it is very, to obtain dense structure, the particle packing should be good. So achieving particle packing will lead to more denser denser structure of concrete, so that the voids will be less and pores will be less. So if we have less pores and voids, the permeability of the other deleterious elements will also be prevented. So that will lead to durable concrete structure. So in such cases, when we need to attain a durable concrete structures, so it is important the materials used should have less pores, so that we can achieve a good particle packing for a denser concrete structure. So when we say the specific gravity, that basically the ratio of mass of material that is going to be used to the mass of same volume of water. So that kind of includes so in aggregates we know it is the material inclusive of pores. So when we say specific gravity, that is absolute specific gravity. So we can divide into two categories. One is absolute specific gravity, one is apparent specific gravity. So absolute specific gravity, as the name indicates, that materials are present without any voids. So that indicates only the aggregate materials, that is in terms of its chemical composition and shape and texture. But if there is any voids, that is excluded when we say absolute specific gravity. But practically that is not possible, because that has some challenging, and it is very difficult to exclude the materials and get the volume of the aggregates alone. So in that case, to make it simple and convenient, we consider when we say the solid materials, we consider both the aggregate particles inclusive of impermeable pores, not the capillary pores, which could suck some moisture from the outside. Okay, so the impermeable pores are counted when we say the solid material. So that combines both aggregates and pores. And for using mixed proportioning, so out of these two, we take apparent specific gravity, because as I said, it is not possible to get the volume of aggregates alone, excluding pores. And also, when we place these aggregates in concrete, that kind of contains both aggregates and pores. So in such cases, it is important to use apparent specific gravity for designing mixed proportioning of concrete. Okay. So this gives the different range of apparent specific gravity for different types of rocks. It is commonly used, and typically the specific gravity of aggregate ranges from 2.6 to 2.7 for different kind of aggregates that we have. Now let's look at the density of aggregates. So density of the aggregate basically indicates the ratio of mass sample to the volume of sample. So it is generally represented as kg per meter cube. So mass to the volume of sample. Again here we have absolute density that refers to only the volume of individual particles. So as I said earlier, it is not possible to get the volume of individual particles, and then it comes the term or the usage of bulk density. So it includes both aggregate and pores. So that is what it is meant by aggregate fragments that would fill a unit volume that is inclusive of pores. And this is kind of gives the range of aggregates density that we use in concrete. Typically normal weight concrete that ranges from 1300 to 1750 kg per meter cube. So when we talk about porosity, there would be a possibility for moisture to get ingress and fill the spaces. Okay, so the porosity of concrete again is influenced by the porosity of aggregates that is present in it, because concrete basically, what does it? It is basically the matrix of cement and aggregate, right? So cement basically binds the aggregates, and cement is also porous in nature, and aggregate is also porous in nature. So when aggregate is so if it is porous, that affects the porosity of concrete. So these are some consequences of porous aggregate, and that could influence the properties that is indicated here. So when we have porous aggregate, the bond between the cement paste and aggregates will be affected. So in the previous lecture, we discussed about the surface texture of aggregates, how those surface textures would influence the performance. So in that, one such thing is bond. Depending on the surface, the adhesion or friction between the materials will be influenced. So if the surface is irregular and rough, the bond will be good. So if the surface is smooth, then the adhesion will be less comparing to the one which has more irregularity. So in such cases, some presence of pores, certain presence of pores will help in enhance the bond, because the bond can in pores, cement can get in, and they can fill the pores. So in such cases, that kind of gets interlocking effect at that region, so that improves the bond. But that depends on the pore sizes and number of pores in the matrix. So if the pore size is too big, and if it is large, then that has other adhesive, like adverse condition. So that is not good for having a good bond between the materials. And the presence of pores significantly influences the resistance of concrete to freezing and thawing. So we discussed in previous lectures, and we discussed the properties of cement. We discussed about freezing and thawing. So what is this condition, freezing and thawing condition? Yeah, just tell what do you know, or what do you think about this freezing and thawing. See, when the class to be little interactive, so it is easy for me to convey and for you also to understand. So what is freezing and thawing? Okay, I'll just call someone just to get what it is. Subham Kumar. Is Subham Kumar online? Rajneesh, Meena. I just want some response. Why you are so quiet? Rashni.
Yes, ma'am. Freezing is conversion of a substance from liquid state to solid state, and thawing is the opposite, from solid state to liquid state.
Exactly. So now, can you relate this with the porosity of aggregate? What
Okay.
would be the possible? Yeah.
Okay. I'm just, I don't know exactly, but I'm thinking if it is more porous, that means it is less tightly packed. So it will likely be in the liquid state. So conversion to liquid state is possible or more easier uh, when it is more porous. So thawing is like more likely to have more porous, and freezing is more likely to happen when it is less porous.
Okay, so you're right. So the concept here is in cold weather we have this freeze thaw cycle. So in sometimes it will get freeze and in sometimes it get stop. So in such cases, when the porosity in concrete, so that can trap some amount of water. So when it is getting freeze, so it will expand. When it try to expand, if there is some space available in the concrete matrix, then the expansive stress will not be developed, right? So in such cases, we can prevent cracking. So whereas in the opposite case, it will be in the reverse. So the resistance of concrete to freezing and thawing will be significantly influenced by the porosity of concrete. So in some cases it is advantage to have porous concrete, because in such weather we purposefully design the concrete matrix to be porous by introducing or by providing some air bubbles. So that is called entrained air, and there the purpose is like we want some space to get expand when it is freezing, so that the more resistance will be offered to that condition, right? So that is the thing here. It is conveyed by resistance of concrete to freezing and thawing. And then we have chemical stability. So that again it kind of involves the dimensional stability and the reactivity of the aggregates. So we get aggregates from different sources, from different types of rocks. So the mineralogical composition will be different for different aggregates. So certain minerals are reactive in nature. So when we use that those reactive mineral admixtures or aggregates in the concrete, so that has tendency to react with cement, or to react with water, or to the environment to which it is exposed. So in such cases, it is important to know the nature of aggregates or the mineralogical composition of aggregates, so that we can ensure that it is dimensionally stable or chemically stable. Okay. Then the other property is resistance to abrasion. So again, we know abrasion is basically indicates the hardness of material. So more porous, that is not a good representative of hardness. So porosity influences the resistance to abrasion. And then specific gravity, because the density is influenced by the presence of pores. So depending on the pores in aggregates, the aggregate pores in aggregate could vary in sizes, and the smallest pores of aggregate would be larger than the gel pores that we can see in cement. So in such cases, so those aggregates should be not connected to each other to avoid the transport of other elements from outside to inside. And we have, so if the aggregate is porous, and depending on the nature of pores, that can allow some amount of water, and depending on the condition of environment to which it is exposed, so the aggregate can be wet aggregate or dry aggregate. So let's look at the properties of such aggregates and how we can get the level of moisture. So when we use aggregates in concrete, we should know the condition of aggregate. So for that, it is important to know the moisture level present in aggregate. So two things are there. One is moisture porosity, to know the amount of pores present in it, and the other one is moisture absorption of aggregates, to know the level of moisture and the water content present in the aggregate. Why? Because these things influence the mixed proportioning of aggregate, which will determine the water cement ratio required for concrete design. So if aggregate has certain amount of water in it, we need to reduce or do some changes or corrections in the water cement ratio that we will be using. See, for example, if the water cement ratio to be used is some 0.4, that is typical water cement ratio that I'm talking. So when we use or when we have wet aggregate, so we already fixed some water content to be used for that concrete matrix. And we have this aggregate which has certain amount of moisture. Okay. So when we have certain amount of moisture, then if we use that aggregate to the concrete matrix, then that contributes additional water. So It is important because even some addition of water will influence the workability of concrete in its fresh state. So to understand that, we have to do test and find out the moisture level present in aggregate, and we need to do moisture correction for it. So if the aggregate is wet, we need to know the amount of moisture present so that we can deduct that much amount of water from the water cement ratio so that it will be balanced. If the aggregate is dry, on the other hand, what will it do? The nature of aggregate will be it will absorb more moisture. So in such cases, when we add water to the concrete mix based on the water cement ratio that we have, more water will be consumed by aggregate. Certain amount of water will be consumed by aggregate when we mix. So we may lack certain amount of water for the actual concrete mixing. So in such cases, we need to do correction that will be inclusive so that we will have enough water after the aggregate has absorbed some amount of water when it is in dry stage. So these things we will look in detail when we discuss about mixed design, how do we do such corrections and how that influence the overall performance of the concrete. So to do that, we need to know the level of moisture present in it. So that is what we are going to look now. So depending on the level of moisture, aggregates are divided into various stages. Okay. So first we will go with the conditions here. So the saturated surface dry condition. So it basically indicates the pores present in aggregate. All the pores present in the aggregate are filled by water. So the aggregate is fully saturated. The pores in the aggregate is fully saturated by by water. So we call the condition as saturated and surface dry, because surface will be dry but the pores inside the aggregates will be filled by water. So that is what indicated here in this third image. So you can see all the pores, these pores all filled by water. So we are starting with this moist condition. So in moist conditions, all the surface, so this surface and pores, everything will be filled in the moisture condition, which is the initial condition that we have. So there the surface is also wet and the pores inside is also wet. So and then if we talk about saturated and surface condition, so the surface is dry and the pores inside is wet, that is filled by concrete, that is filled by water. Fine. And when these aggregates are exposed to the environmental conditions, it is the natural tendency that water gets evaporate from the material, so that you can see there are some moisture loss and there are certain pores that will be filled, but some portions will not be filled with or is not wet. So some water will evaporate when the aggregate is allowed to stand free in water. So that is was this condition. Okay. And further, if we just want to know the weight of aggregate alone without any moisture, then we need to remove all the moisture from the concrete. So that is the stage called bone dry or oven dry, where the temperature of the aggregates will be increased to remove the water from it. Fine. So all the water is removed due to prolonged drying. So for a laboratory purpose, we use the oven. So we do some 24 hours oven curing so that we can ensure all the water in the aggregates are evaporated. So typically for mixed designing, we assume this condition. So this is the ideal condition for mixed design, because here the aggregate is all filled, or all the pores in the aggregates are filled by water. So when we have such condition or such stage, so this is the ideal stage, because that will not influence the water cement ratio. So the amount of water added in the concrete will be used for the concrete mixing only. So there will not be any absorption, or there will not be any release of water from aggregate. So this is the ideal case that should be considered for mixed design, where all the ports in the aggregates are filled, and then we need to do correction with respect to this case. So these are the different stages of moisture level present in aggregate, and if you want to know the amount of moisture content present in it and to know the absorbed moisture content, these are the ways to get it. Because when we have the initial moist aggregates, so where all the pores are filled by water and all the surface is wetted by water. So this is the initial stage, and we know that the stage where all the water will be removed is the stage called bone dry or oven dry. So to get the total water content in the aggregate, we have to take the weight or the difference in this difference between these two. So if you weigh this aggregate and if you weigh this stage of aggregates, the difference will give you the total water content of that particular aggregate. And the total water content is divided into two categories. One is absorbed moisture, that is because of absorption. So when the aggregate is exposed in the condition, so that has a tendency to absorb some moisture from the environment. So we can calculate that absorption between the cases where we have the saturated surface dry condition and the oven dry condition. So the difference between these two will give the amount of moisture absorbed from the cases. And if you want to know the free moisture content in it, the free moisture basically indicates the extra water that present in aggregate after filling the pores. That is basically the water present on the surface. So the difference between these two will give the moisture content, that is free moisture present in the aggregate. So to summarize that, we can know that aggregates are responsible for the voids because of the porosity present on it. So when we have that voids, we calculate the void ratio. Okay, so the void ratio basically indicates the mass of or the volume of voids to the total volume of the sample. So if you know the bulk density of the aggregate based on the surface saturated conditions where all the pores are filled by water, we can calculate the void ratio. So that basically indicates the number of voids present between the particles. So if we know the number of voids present between the particles, that will give an idea how much cement is required to fill those voids to get the complete concrete matrix. So basically void ratio indicates the volume of mortar required to fill the space between the coarse aggregate particles, and aggregates containing surface water packed less densely due to bulking effect. So this basically indicates when we have surface water, that is the moist conditioned aggregates, when we mix in the concrete, there are some bulking effect due to the presence of sand. So this bulking effect is defined as the effect of water that basically pushes the sand particles apart. So when the water available on the surface of aggregate that push away the sand particles that is there in the concrete mix. So when we have such effect, so that basically going to introduce more pores or the voids at that particular region. And the bulk density determined in the laboratory definitely will not be the case that will be there on the sites, because in lab that we do this thing with proper condition and with the proper precautions. We do follow each and every steps, and moreover the sample is also less. But in construction this is not going to be the case. So in general, whatever that we get from the bulk density, it can be used for mixed design based on the mass, that is the water cement ratio, and based on the weight. So it cannot be used to convert this into the volume batching. So this will not be that effective. And as I said, achieving a densely packed structure in concrete is very important because of achieving less force, which will lead to long, durable concrete. So there are certain parameters to be considered. So particles of one size can be packed to a limited extent. So when I say this, for example, the coarse aggregates could range from 10 to 20 mm. So when we have one size, so there would be some voids between the aggregates. So to reduce those voids, what can we do? We can do fill those voids using smaller particles between the larger ones. So when we do that, we can increase the packing and such that the bulk density get increased. So for the same volume, we can place more aggregates of different sizes so that voids can be reduced. So that will lead to your maximum bulk density conditions. When the mass of so for achieving this, the fineness of aggregate should be about 35 to 40% of the total mass of the aggregate. So this will lead to reduced pore structure. So when we achieve maximum bulk density, so that will lead to densely packed concrete structures which has less pores. And the less pores basically indicates less cement is required to fill those pores, and that will lead to more economical design. Alright, so in the next class we will look in detail about the sieve analysis and different gradings available to achieve different package structure and how or where those can be used. And there are some reactions. I was mentioning that we, depending on the mineralogical composition, the aggregates can be reactive in nature. And what are those reactions or the reactivity that we have to consider while selecting aggregates for concrete? So those things we will look in the next classes. Fine. Anything else?